In alhamdulillah, wa salat, wa salam ala wa rasulullah. We're continuing with the topic of how to understand and benefit from the differences and the mistakes made by the companions. And we're focusing in on how their big differences and their big mistakes occurred after the Uthman had become the leader over the Muslims. We are now at the point in history where, as Ayesha, who was one of the wives of the Prophet, took upon herself to seek vengeance for the murder, the brutal killing of Uthman, how she was making Hajj when she received the news of what had happened to Uthman. And instead of going back home to Medina, she turned around and went back to Mecca to learn more about what had happened. And when she came back to Mecca, the Meccans met at the mosque, and she gave a nice fiery speech when told what happened to him, saying that this was an injustice done against him and that Qasas, or vengeance, needed to be made in his honor. Okay. At the same time, Ali, the rebels who killed Uthman, had forced Ali to take on the position as the new leader of the Muslims. Ali didn't want this position, but they forced it upon him. And after they forced it upon him, they forced all the other people of Medina to come and give allegiance to Ali. Some were forced, some were not. Two of those people were two eminent companions, Talha and Zubair. It was unclear as to whether or not Talha and Zubair had been forced. Some people say that they were forced to give their allegiance to Ali. Others said that they didn't. We'll discuss that in today's class. We'll find out the truth behind that in today's class. But anyway, Talha and Zubair ended up giving their allegiance, whether it was forced or not. And when they gave it to Ali, they had a suggestion for him. They asked him, because the first thing Ali wanted to do was to remove all the governors that had been appointed by Uthman, because he felt that they had become too powerful, too arrogant. Many of the companions had suggested to Ali to not do this yet. They said, wait a while, let the people mourn the death. Let them get over the grieving of Uthman's murder. And even Talha and Zubair met with Ali, and they said, even if you want to get rid of the governors, why don't you make us two? Make one of us governor of Kufa, the other governor of Basra, because these are the two countries that are the headquarters of the rebels. And they like us. We can go there as governor and get them, win the people to accept you and help to end or squash all this fitna that's going on. But Ali didn't take their advice either. Instead, he told them, no, I'm going to appoint different people as governors, but I want you two to stand by me here, to stay with me in Medina, stand by me, so together we can make a joint effort of showing solidarity, to show the people that, yes, we are the eminent companions of the Prophet, the original companions, and we are united. But that was not what Talha and Zubair wanted. They ran away. They escaped to Mecca. They heard about Ayesha, and they joined up with her in Mecca. And Ayesha made them two of her counselors, and in turn, two of the two generals of her army, because she was intent on trying to get vengeance. The people of Mecca wanted vengeance for the murder of Uthman. And then also we discussed how when Ali heard about Ayesha and what she was organizing in Mecca, he sent a letter asking what's going on. And she answered saying, Ali, you need to step down as leader. What you need to be doing is trying to seek vengeance against the rebels there who have murdered Uthman. Ali refused to step down. But he told her, I am going to seek avengement for Uthman, but I'm going to do it the right way, in my way, in time. Let me first unite the people back together, and then we'll go after the rebels. That wasn't good enough with Ayesha and the people of Mecca, so thus they raised a call to jihad. They agreed to go out to Basra. Basra, again, was one of the countries that played the big role in the murder of Uthman, Basra, and Kufa. The counselors of Ayesha agreed that they got her to agree to head out from out of Mecca and go to Basra and make Basra the base of their operations against the rebels and the base of their operations against Ali if he didn't join up with them and seek revenge. And that's where we stopped off at yesterday. Yesterday we talked about how Ayesha sent out a letter, a proclamation, asking the people to join up with her. She said, we're going to seek revenge against what these people did to Uthman, who was one of the eminent companions. She gave the verse of the Quran to support that, which states how whenever two groups of Muslims fight against each other, if one of them refuse to turn back to what is right, then you fight against them until they do. She used that verse. And she left from out of Mecca with 3,000 men, and as they marched to Basra, more Arabic tribes joined them. And by the time they got to Basra, they had a big force, guys. Just so you know, they had a force of army of over 300,000 men. 300,000 people had joined up within her army. But on the way to Basra, Shaitan played a big hand in this. He caused her men to fight amongst themselves. Instead of them focusing on what they were going to do when they get to Basra to hold the rebels accountable, they began to argue as to who would be the leader after Ali. The people who supported Talha said Talha should be the leader. The people who supported Zubair said Zubair should be the leader. And the men began to fight amongst themselves. Ayesha tried to stop it, but she was not successful. Many of the men had defected from her army because they realized that this fight is not for the sake of Allah. This fight is for personal reasons, for personal gain, for power. And Islam teaches that we can't fight and kill other Muslims for those reasons. So a lot of her army men had defected. But nonetheless, she ended up arriving in Basra. And as this picture shows, this is an example how they camped outside of Basra. And when the governor of Basra heard that she had arrived with an army, and this was a new governor who had been appointed by Ali, he sent a messenger to ask her why was she here and why was she here with an army. And she told him, I come in peace. I don't come to make war. I don't want to fight against other Muslims. She said, instead, I came in peace. I want vengeance for the murder of Uthman. She basically told him she wanted them to turn over all the rebels, all the people who played a role in killing Uthman. She wanted them all brought to justice. She said, I'm only here for that. I'm here to bring justice for the murder, the brutal murder of Uthman, one of the eminent companions of the Prophet. That's where we stopped off yesterday. The messenger went back to the governor and told him she came in peace. She did not come here to fight. She just wants vengeance or revenge against those who killed Uthman. She wants them to be handed over. And this is where we're going to pick up now. Okay? When the governor of Basra received the news back from his messenger that Ayesha did not come to make war, she came in peace, but she wanted handed over to her all those responsible for murdering Uthman. The people of Basra began to split. The governor was a supporter of Ali. He was one of the men who Ali had just put in power. And he felt that he had to defend Ali and not turn over anyone to her. But there were other people amongst him that agreed with Ayesha. So thus the people split. Some joined up with in support of Ali, but the majority of them were in support with Ayesha. And when the governor saw that his state was in a chaos, he tried to meet with Ayesha. Him and Ayesha tried to negotiate peace. But it failed because, as we talked about before, Shaitan had already put his hand in this. Shaitan had already caused the men of Ayesha's army themselves to argue over who would be leader. So even though they made attempts to try to negotiate through this peacefully, it failed. And what ended up happening is they ended up, the governor of Basra, who was in support of Ali and those who supported him, he gathered his army together and went to meet her in the desert on the battlefield. Once again, when he saw the army of Ayesha and she saw his army coming, they again tried to make peace again. They didn't want to fight. These were eminent companions. These were all Muslims getting ready to fight and kill each other. They didn't want this to really happen. So when they met on the battlefield, Talha and Zubair, who were two of Ayesha's generals and also two of the most eminent of all the living companions, they gave speeches claiming the righteousness of their cause. And after they gave their speech, Ayesha gave hers too. She said that she had no intention of fighting against the people of Basra. She had no intention of shedding any unnecessary blood. She said war is not a solution. She said the simple fact that I have come here, I came here, I am one of the wives of the prophet. I came here to prove to you that we want a peaceful resolution. All we want is for all the people who played a role in the murder of Othman to be brought forward. Turn them into us. Turn them over to us so we can deal with them. That was basically her speech. And her speech was very impressive and it was very effective. And again, what happened was, because of her beautiful speech, many of the army of Basra began to withdraw. They withdrew. They didn't want to fight. So her speech did have some effect on some of the people. But despite this, again, Shaitan was already involved. There was a man named Jarir ibn Qadama. He was a distinguished citizen of Basra. After Ayesha gave her speech, he came forward and he addressed her. And he told her the murder of Uthman was painful for them to accept too. He said, but what was she doing here? He said, you done took off your face veil, although women don't have to cover their face. And this is also more proof. This is more proof that Muslim women do not have to cover their face. It's culture, not religion. Ayesha had took off her face veil and she was a warrior, a general of this army. So he addressed her and told her, you done took off your face veil and here you are sitting up on top of a camel leading an army. He told her you should go back to Mecca or go back to Medina and stay out of politics. He said, it's not for you, a woman or one of the wives of the prophet, to be involved in politics. That's what he told her. And then another man started taunting Talha and Zubair. They said, who the heck you two think you are? Y'all left your wives and had the nerve to drag one of the prophet's wives here to the battlefield. They began to criticize Talha and criticize Zubair for breaking their oath of allegiance to Ali. And then another group of people began to address Ayesha. They said, Ayesha, if Talha and Zubair forced you to come here, we will take you home ourselves. So this is what happened. You know, even though she tried to speak about her cause, all she wanted was them to turn over the murderers of Uthman. Shaitan had already cast the die. And when Ayesha refused to leave, they began to insult her. There was a man who began to insult her. His name was Hakim ibn Jabala. Hakim ibn Jabala, he was one of the deputies of the governor of Basra. He began to call Ayesha names and insult her because he didn't like her anyway. And he began to curse her and call her names to the point where his own men objected. And when his own men objected to him insulting Ayesha, he shot them dead. He shot them. And that's basically how this battle began. He shot his own men, and then he advanced on Ayesha, and that's when Ayesha had no choice but to tell her men to defend themselves. And that's when the fighting began between Ayesha's army and the army of Basra. A lot of people were killed. A lot of good people were killed. And a lot of bad people were killed. The people who took the most loss were the people of Basra. Ayesha basically and her army won. When nighttime came, the governor of Basra and his men retreated. And when they retreated, the people of Basra who had joined up with Ayesha advised her that they should leave at midnight and go to Basra and finish the fight. And they did that, and this is how Ayesha and her army won. The governor of Basra was defeated, and he tried to speak of peace then. And when he said that he yielded, that's when once again Ayesha went into negotiations for peace with him. But in the meantime, the people were still blaming Talha and Zubair. People were still blaming Talha and Zubair for instigating this big fight and involving the Prophet's wife. So they agreed as part of their peace treaty that they would send a messenger to Medina to determine if Talha and Zubair had really given their oath of allegiance to Ali voluntarily, or if they were forced, because Talha and Zubair said that they were forced to give allegiance to Ali. They agreed that if they found out that they were forced, then Ayesha would leave. But if they had given it voluntarily, then that they would withdraw and give the lead to Ayesha. And in the meantime, they had entered into an agreement of peace to not fight each other until the decision came back as to whether or not Talha and Zubair were forced into this or not. And again, when they went, and so the messengers went to Medina, and when they arrived in Medina, they found out, they went to the mosque, and it was Usama, the son of Zayd. You guys know who Zayd was. Zayd was the adopted son of the Prophet before Allah outlawed adoption. Usama was the son of Zayd and Barakah. Barakah was the woman who raised the Prophet as a child. Usama was like a grandson to the Prophet Muhammad. The Prophet loved Usama, and Usama was the one who fought against the Syrians during the time of Abu Bakr and brought victory to the Muslims. That's how Syria became the Islamic state it is now. Syria originally was a Roman empire, but the Muslims defeated the Romans under the leadership of Usama. Well, what happened was when the messengers went to the mosque, Usama, the son of Zayd, stood up and announced. He said Talha and Zubair were forced to give allegiance to Ali, that they did not give their allegiance voluntarily. And when he made that announcement, another man tried to attack him, but he was stopped. And the other companions who were with Usama, they too said, it's true, Talha and Zubair have been forced to give their allegiance to Ali. So when that statement was made, the messenger went back to Basra and brought the news to Ayesha and the governor, saying that the facts revealed that Talha and Zubair were telling the truth. They were not forced. I mean, they were not, that they were forced to give allegiance to Ali. They were not voluntarily done. Now remember, according to their agreement, if they had been forced, the governor was supposed to give control of Basra to Ayesha. But in the meantime, the governor had received news from Ali, because Ali had heard what was going on in Basra. Ali had managed to get together an army of his own. And Ali had told the governor, keep Ayesha there. Hold her and her army there. We are coming to meet them. So instead of the governor doing what he had agreed to Ayesha to do, which was give Basra over to her, he refused because he knew that Ali was coming. Okay? And since he did not keep his agreement, once again, his group of supporters split. In fact, they got into an argument. The supporters of Zubair and Talha were arguing with his men. And again, fighting emerged in the mosque. They began to fight in the mosque because he refused to give over, the governor refused to turn Basra over. They began to fight in the mosque and many people were killed. This fight lasted for several hours. In fact, the mosque was dyed with the blood of the Muslims. Okay, so again, here you can see eminent companions, people fighting. On the fourth day of this siege or this fight in the mosque, the people who supported Ayesha attacked the house of the governor of Basra. They took him as a prisoner. They wanted to kill him, but Ayesha said, no, do not kill him. He's a Muslim. Instead, just put him in jail. So they imprisoned him and they pulled out his beard, which is an old Arabic custom to humiliate you. They will remove a man's beard as a way of humiliating him. And they also tortured him. And while he was taken prisoner and was being tortured, that's when the people who were still in support of Ali and him, Hakim ibn Jabala, took up the army and they began to fight against Ayesha's men again. And before they fought, Ayesha again tried to keep peace. She told the people, I am not here to fight against you. All I want are the rebels who were responsible for murdering Uthman. Turn them over to us. We're not here to fight. But since Hakim ibn Jabala declared war, they had no choice but to fight. And this was a bloody battle. Ayesha's army won because the people who were in support of Hakim and Ali were outnumbered. In fact, he was killed. Okay? So here you can see this fighting. Shaitan had already played his cards. Ayesha came in peace. The only thing she sought was for the rebels to turn over the murderers of Uthman, but it ended up being a bloodbath. When Hakim ibn Jabala was killed, his men lost their heart and they surrendered. And that's when Ayesha got her vengeance. All of his supporters who were involved in the murder of Uthman were executed. All the people of Basra who played a role in killing Uthman, Ayesha had them arrested and she had all of them killed. And it was thousands, a lot of them, thousands of them. Only one man escaped her massacre. And his name was Qasas ibn Zubair. He offered his allegiance to Ali, and he was the only one who played a role in the murder of Uthman from Basra who escaped. How many people was it? It wasn't thousands, it was hundreds. over 600 people from Basra were killed as Qasas, or vengeance for the blood of Uthman. So here you can see Ayesha did finally. She finally got what she set out to get. She got her vengeance from the people of Basra. 600 men were executed for the role they played in murdering Uthman. But look who else was executed too. Many eminent companions lost their lives too. Many good Muslims lost their lives unnecessarily too. But now Ayesha and her army have become masters of Basra. And the rest of the people left who were in support of Ali, they left the city. The only people who remained in Basra were supporters of Ayesha and her army. So Ayesha, Talha and Zubair, they had accomplished what they set out to do. And Ayesha sent a letter to Muawiyah. Muawiyah was in Syria, the governor of Syria, who refused to step down. She sent a letter to Muawiyah telling him that she and her army had taken vengeance for the murder of Uthman, and she advised him to do the same thing. She said the people involved came from Kufa, Basra, and Egypt. She said, now, Muawiyah, you can move and seek vengeance from where you are too. So now the die has been cast. Ayesha was successful in cleaning house in Basra, but there was Kufa to deal with. Also Egypt. What role did Muawiyah play? And what about Ali? Ali and his army were on their way to Basra. Remember, Ali had received word as to what was going on. He was on his way from Medina to Basra with an army of his own. Not as big as Ayesha's, because he didn't have as much support as Ayesha had, but he had an army that he had raised. What was going to happen when he got to Basra? What would Muawiyah do? This is where we'll pick up tomorrow. So we'll stop right here for today. If you guys have any questions, you can ask. I want you guys to keep in mind, it was not Ayesha's intention to make war at all. All she wanted Basra to do was turn over the rebels. But since they refused, and since Shaitan played his role, the fighting emerged. A lot of people were killed, and this haunted Ayesha. For the rest of Ayesha's life, she was haunted by this reality that so many good Muslims have been killed. Okay, even though it was not her intention. That just goes to show, guys, sometimes good intentions does not excuse the sin. Remember, the prophet taught us that. He said good intentions do not excuse the sin. We'll pick up tomorrow. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika.